Can all members please turn off the phones and turn off the video if they wish, and mute your microphones, please, until you raise your hand to request to speak. And if you like, you can blur your background. That's up to you. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting of Hyndburn Borough Council's Planning Committee meeting. As we're doing this on technology streaming rather than in person, just like previous times, can I ask each member just to briefly introduce themselves in the order that's on the agenda. I'll start off. My name's Councillor Eamon Higgins from Huncourt Ward, and I'm the chair of the Planning Committee.
Councillor Dave Parkins, Vice Chair of this committee, representing Huncourt Ward.
Councillor Judith Addison, representing Emmanuel Ward, Oswald Twistle, and I'm the Shadow Chair of the Planning Committee.
Councillor Stephen Button, representing Alton Ward.
Councillor Stuart Eaves, representing St Andrews Ward, Oswald Twistle.
Councillor Abdul Khan, representing Central Ward, member of Planning Committee.
Councillor Kate Walsh, representing Rishton Ward.
Councillor Terry Hearn, Baxenden Ward.
Councillor June Harrison, Barnfield Ward.
Councillor Melissa Fisher, representing Clayton.
Councillor Kath Pratt, representing Baxenden Ward.
Councillor Chris Knight, representing St Oswald's in Oswald Twistle.
Okay.
We've got Councillor Lorraine Cox as well.
Councillor Lorraine Cox, representing the Church Ward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, members. I'd just like to say, whilst this member has sent her apologies, this would have been Councillor Jean Battle's last planning committee attendance. And Jean has served this council for over 20 years, and she'll be greatly missed for her dedication to this borough in more ways than one. But from all of us at planning, we wish her well and thank her for her contribution to the council planning committee over the last 20 years. Thank you very much, Jean. Okay, we'll move on then with today's agenda. Item number 1, apologies for absence, substitutions, declarations of interest and dispensations.
Thanks, Chair. As you just mentioned, we've got apologies from Councillor Jean Battle. Substituting for her is Councillor Chris Knight. We've also received a declaration of interest from Councillor Paddy Short, who will not be attending on the committee. And Councillor Lorraine Cox will be substituting for him.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about the slight little interference there, but that was my fault actually for insisting that Rachel sits in the same room as I in case I get stuck. Okay, agenda item number 2, minutes of the last meeting. To submit the minutes of the planning committee, which was held on the 24th of March 2021 for approval as a correct record. I recommend that the minutes be received and approved as a correct record. Do I have a seconder, please?
Seconder, Chairman. Councillor Dave Parkins.
Seconded by Councillor Dave Parkins. Thank you, Dave. Only one item on today's agenda. That's Town and Country Planning Act 1990. A planning application for determination. and it is action on planning application 3811200204. That's land adjacent to Charter Street, Accrington. And I will hand over to Simon Prewell, Chief Planning Officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Planning permission is sought for the development of housing on land adjacent to Charter Street, Accrington. When this application was initially presented to Planning Committee, it was originally with a recommendation for refusal because officers were not satisfied that the applicant had satisfactorily addressed ecological matters. Members asked for the application to be deferred to allow additional time for officers to work with the applicant to resolve this matter. In the meantime, members of the Planning Committee have also undertaken a visit to the site, and I'm pleased to say that the design of the proposed development along its northern boundary in particular, next to the cycle path, has now been amended so that the development does not encroach into the biological heritage site or involve the relocation of the cycle path. Council's ecological advisor is now satisfied with the proposed development, subject to a financial contribution being paid in compensation for the loss of woodland habitat and trees arising from the clearance of the site. This will be addressed through the provisions of the legal agreement under Section 106. So just to remind members, the applicant is seeking planning permission for the development of 46 zero-carbon affordable dwellings comprising a mix of apartments and family homes and a community training hub on the site. The proposed development is within the urban area and on a site that is allocated for housing development. The principle of the development is therefore considered acceptable. The design and layout of the development are now considered acceptable, and the Highway Authority has raised no objections. No representations have been received from neighbouring properties, and officers are satisfied that, subject to appropriate planning conditions and the applicant entering into a legal agreement to cover the ongoing maintenance of the site and other matters set out in the report, the planning application should be supported. It should be noted that Network Rail has recommended that a number of standard conditions be imposed on the development. The recommendation asks that delegated authority be given to the Chief Planning Officer to finalise the wording of the conditions, and in the case of the conditions recommended by Network Rail, it will be necessary to ensure that they meet the legal requirements and are appropriately worded. I'll now take you to the presentation, which I think you should be able to see on the screen. Next slide, please, Rachel. This is the location plan of the site. It's in West Accrington, just above or just below Project Phoenix. The railway goes along the northern side of the site, and you've got the green route with the cycle path again along the northern boundary. So the west and the east is residential development, and there's a works abutting the southern boundary of the site. So next slide, Rachel. Next slide, please, Rachel. Can we have the next slide? Is that no, we'll just get this presentation back up.
You're on mute, Rachel.
Next slide. Is that that's better?
That's better.
Thank you. That's an aerial view of the site again, showing the trees, which members saw when they visited the site. Next slide. Another aerial image showing the context of the site in the residential area. Next slide, Rachel. Slightly further out, again, you can see the Project Phoenix development to the north of the railway, extensive new development, which followed the clearance of much of that land. Next slide. That's a red line boundary showing the site. The green line represents the biological heritage site, and the site is partly within that area, but no development is going to affect that anymore. Next slide. That's a slide showing the layout of the proposed development, with the road coming in from the east from Howard Close and sweeping around the site, and the community centre is in the southwest corner of the site, next to Charter Street. Next slide. That's just a drawing again showing the same thing. So if we move on to the next one, that shows the open space management plan. So we would expect those areas to be managed in perpetuity after planning permission has been granted, should the development go ahead. That shows elevations of the main apartment buildings that vary in height between 3 and 4 stories. Next slide. Again, that shows elevations of the dwellings that are proposed. It's a slightly different form of development to your standard house types. And I think for that reason, we did feel that the design was quite innovative and a bit different, which was welcomed. Next slide. Again, more elevations and layouts of the house types. All these plans, by the way, are on the council's website if you wish to look at them later. Next slide. Again, more of the elevations and the first floor and second floor plans of the proposed houses. Next slide. Again, more elevations. Next slide, please. That's an oblique view showing the site along the Greenway and the railway running adjacent, and for those who know the area, the caravan storage on the other side of the railway. Thank you. Again, another oblique photograph showing the location of the site. Next slide. Another one. I think Nigel's got a bit carried away with these aerial pictures. Yeah. Okay, so Rachel, if you want to take it back to one of the earlier slides that we've got, perhaps the aerial image or something like that before members, so that will be fine. Okay, thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Simon. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Scott Moon and then Mr. Paddy Short to the meeting. I don't know if I can see them on the screen, but we've got 5 minutes, 5 minutes apiece to speak on this subject. So I'll invite, first of all, Mr. Scott Moon to speak first. Hello, Scott. 5 minutes apiece to speak on the.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Am I in?
Yeah, so you're on the screen. We can all hear you, Scott, and you've got 5 minutes starting now. Thank you.
All right. Well, hi everybody. Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of the committee for allowing me to speak to you on our planning application. I'm the founder of Building for Humanity CIC. I'm here to talk about our planning application for a unique 100% affordable net zero carbon housing development on land at Charter Street, as Simon's just mentioned. Building for Humanity was set up by myself and my wife, Victoria, in 2016 to offer hope to homeless individuals those on low income and particularly homeless ex-military personnel. We wanted to give them more than just a coffee or a sandwich. We wanted to give them a home, to give them the opportunity to be trained, work in roles throughout the company, or even help build the very homes which eventually they'll go on to buy, rent, or help maintain. These will be high spec, extremely energy efficient, and utilising modern methods of construction, which is way ahead of the government's plan that whole new homes will be required to be highly energy efficient by 2025. We're a self-funded charitable organisation, and we generate the majority of our income providing heating and insulation solutions to domestic properties in fuel poverty. The first phase of the development will be the construction of the community hub. This is where the wider community can call in to see how the homes will be constructed and which sustainable products will be used. We'll show and teach people the importance of energy efficiency, advice on apprenticeships, training and job opportunities throughout the company or with one of our strategic partners, with the emphasis all about health and well-being. Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the construction will be the apartments and houses, with Phase 4 completing the project with landscaping of private and community gardens along with vegetable growing areas. We will be operating all of the rental properties as a registered social landlord once our status has been approved by the regulator. This is to make sure that our ethos is embedded throughout the communities we build and our company beliefs. This is about a social re-engineering project. It's about showing people that you can be rewarded to work. Our aim is to get these individuals off the benefit system and reduce the welfare bill. Now, we're connected to a couple of charities, and Homes for Humanity is one of our dedicated registered charities for anyone homeless, low-income individuals and any homeless ex-military personnel. We will donate any surplus profits to further the purpose of this charity, which creates a full wrap-round support mechanism that will operate the Humanity Credit Programme, which is the first of its kind in the UK. This lets individuals sign up and volunteer to earn credits that are turned into a monetary value so that they can be used against an array of things like save for a deposit on one of the houses, reduce their rent costs, replace a broken washing machine, children's uniforms, or even help with children's school dinners. We will also help and support our other charity partners, as well as us being a proud signed member of the Armed Forces Covenant. And we have the full support of Hyndburn's Armed Forces champion, Councillor Paddy Short. I would like to finish by thanking the Cabinet members for their belief in this project when I presented it back in 2016. So I'm asking you kindly to consider the scheme before you, with the Planning Department now recommending this scheme for approval, after our team of consultants agreed on all aspects, including biodiversity and conditions agreed within the Section 106 agreement. If you do this, you will offer the potential to change many hundreds of individuals' lives in the Hyndburn area, and the social value it will bring will leave a long-lasting legacy. We hope that Hyndburn Borough Council would then proudly say that we helped and supported them to deliver their award-winning maiden scheme on Charter Street in Accrington, the town where I was born. Our team is made up of a special group of individuals that are passionate not only about helping individuals in need, but making a difference to people's lives by delivering this groundbreaking scheme, and who have our company values written in their hearts. So I'd like to finish today by saying thank you for your time and listening to me today, and you all keep safe.
Thank you, Scott. That was absolutely timed to perfection. That was bang on 5 minutes. Well done.
Thank you.
Yes, that was a very interesting speech you made there, and thank you for putting it across so well. Could I now please invite Mr. Paddy Short for his turn to speak. if you can come up on the screen, Paddy, that would be appreciated somehow.
I believe Chair, sorry, I believe I am on the screen according to me.
Oh, are you?
I think anybody else can see me.
I can't see you, but then again, I'm terrible with
it's all right.
Technology.
I could see your name, but not you.
Oh, yeah. I can see your name. Just press your video button, Paddy, and we'll be able to see you. Oh, Terry Hearn's popped up now. I can see it at the bottom. You might just need to press the video button, then it'll show your picture.
I have done.
Okay.
I'll speak anyway, Chair, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. We're just about to say, carry on then. It's 5 minutes starts now, Paddy.
Thank you very much, Chair and fellow councillors. I was approached 3 years ago by Scott Moon, the founder of Homes for Humanity. He and a friend had seen homeless veterans begging in the street and decided that someone needed to do something to help these veterans. As he had a background in construction, he thought that he would help these veterans, and he founded the Homes for Humanity. Homes for Humanity will offer veterans the chance to work and receive training on their projects, while offering them affordable, well-built homes to rent or buy. This help will be immeasurable to these veterans who find themselves unemployed and homeless. At the start of the project, I managed to get the council to agree to earmark land that was allocated for housing and to donate the land free of charge, land that has been left empty and overgrown for the last 40 years and is prone to antisocial behaviour and fly tipping. This project will not only offer much needed help to the veterans community, but will also add great social value to our borough by having the following, and I think Scott's gone through most of this, but I'll highlight them again. 100% real affordable housing, the only one in the UK. 100% neutral carbon homes. Community hub at its centre. A community points awarded to renters who volunteer in our community. This will result in discounted rent. A project that is based on social community value, not for profit. As the Armed Forces champion, this for me shows this council's commitment to the Armed Forces Covenant that we signed. It underlines our area's proud history in supporting our country as the home of the Accrington PALs. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paddy. It's time for the committee to comment. I'm going to start off. First, actually, this time. I don't think there's any member of this committee, regardless of political affiliation, that would find ex-military personnel that have fought for this country to be begging in the streets. That's completely unacceptable, and it shouldn't be happening in this day and age. I think it's very sad. I've never seen, whilst I've been on this council, I've never seen a planning application like this come to committee. I feel it's unique. I think it's an absolutely fantastic idea. And like both speakers have covered all the main points, to get these people off the benefit system and get them back into employment. And like Mr. Moon said, most of all, give them a home. Is just fantastic, and I'd like to thank Mr. Moon for bringing his idea and his development to Hyndburn, and thank him also for having confidence in this council to support him. As far as I'm concerned, and I've been reading up on this the other night as well, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and for that reason, for those reasons stated, it will most certainly be getting my support today. Now, I'd like to open it up to the rest of members. If I can see anybody who's got some raised hands. Yeah, okay. So I'll start off with Councillor Steve Button, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as somebody that does pay particular attention to green matters, it is very refreshing to see a development that's proposing to be very green, carbon neutral, etc. And I do applaud it. The previous time it came to planning, there was concerns about the 300 plus trees that were being removed. I know that's been addressed, but to satisfy those that do have these concerns, quite rightly, can they explain how there's going to be a 10% additional adding to the biodiversity, given that biodiversity will be lost when the site gets cleared? So in the report it says there's an additional 10%. I just wondered if you could highlight how that would happen.
That question would have to be answered by Simon Prideaux. If Simon...
Yeah, it would actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Just very broadly, a biodiversity calculation is undertaken, which is set out in the report, and a value is attached to that. Okay. Essentially, that's a financial value, and it's recognised that although there will be some retention of trees on site, which will contribute towards that value, the majority will have to be provided off-site, and that money that's contributed by the applicant will be used by the council to create habitat elsewhere. So the money that will be given by the applicant to the council under the Section 106 agreement will be used for, say, for example, for tree planting elsewhere in the borough to create a habitat of equivalent plus 10% value. I hope that tries to clarify it. It's not exactly a straightforward area of work, and we've tried to summarise it as well as we can report, but we recognise that sometimes it is like comparing apples with oranges, but it's in line with the approach that's now recommended by government.
Thank you, Simon. Has that answered your question, Councillor Button?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I suppose it's whether those residing within the habitat can simply be moved. But yeah, it does satisfy it to a degree. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Kathleen Pratt, please.
I think this has the makings of being a really good development. But I would like to know if there's only the one access from the existing development, or is there going to be another one? Because from that existing development, there's quite a step down onto that field. And if they're going to put a ramp, is that going to be big enough? And is it going to be useful?
Again, I think Simon would be the best person to comment on that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, there's only going to be one vehicular access to the site, and that'll be from the east, from the existing road network. When members visited the site, it was evident there is a bit of a drop down, probably 6 or 7 feet perhaps down into the main site. There will need to be some engineering work to allow a reasonable gradient into the site, but we don't believe that's an issue. There's going to be material made available from the large mounds on the north of the site, which can be levelled out and used in the construction of the site. So we are aware that there is a slight level difference there between the neighbouring residential development to the east and the site itself, but it would be graded out fairly evenly, and we don't envisage that to be a particular issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that was quite a good point, actually, Kath. Thank you, Simon. Councillor Knight, Chris Knight, please. You're on mute, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, just to expand on the point raised by Councillor Pratt. Simon, you mentioned there would only be one vehicular access, but I'm assuming, given its location next to the Hyndburn Greenway, there will be pedestrian access. Will there be also pedestrian access up near the Charter Street entrance?
There's certainly pedestrian access onto the cycleway. I'd have to double check the plans to see if there's one at the Charter Street entrance. I'm not sure that there is, because there is a slight height difference in that location, but I'll have to check the plans to see on that.
That's fine, thank you. Yeah, that'll do. I guess really the pedestrian access to the Greenway, cycle route access as well, because obviously it's part of the cycle network, isn't it? So that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Councillor Knight. Did I see Councillor Terry Hearn raise his hand?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, thanks. But Councillor Pratt raised the problem. I was just a bit concerned about this ramp,
right,
and the one access to the area. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Councillor Stewart Eaves, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank Scott Moon for fetching this project to Hyndburn, and I'd also like to thank Councillor Short for his involvement in it. On a personal level, my recently departed brother left the army in 1980. He'd been in for about 12 years at that time. He'd come out to a certain degree institutionalised, which can happen in the armed forces. His marriage had recently broken up, and he were hoping to stay in the family home. Now, for whatever reason, my mother and father didn't want him back in at that time, and he ended up in the top floor of Mill Hill Flats in Blackburn, shut away from anyone, apart from his close relatives. And at that time, I think it had a great detrimental effect. We're talking about a good system here that will provide whatever a soldier needs, and hopefully go along with anything, including the handling of anyone suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'd just like to say I think it's an excellent project, and it will have my full backing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. I think that's a very good point, and personally, I can see the benefits of veterans living proximal to each other and having a community centre, etc. It's nothing less than ideal. I'm just looking now. Councillor Abdul Khan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Like my colleagues, especially Stuart Eaves, I also welcome this project and thank Mr. Moon for bringing it to where it is coming. With me being the councillor of Central Ward, and it really falls within Central Ward, I believe. I know Howard Close is Central Ward, so I don't know whether geographically that will fall into my ward, but nevertheless, it's a good project, and we really welcome and thank Mr. Moon for bringing it. Especially the land has been vacant, sat there for doing nothing other than causing problems, like Chris Knight has already mentioned. And we will obviously rid most of the problems that we face with that land being there. So thank you, Mr. Moon.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Judith Addison, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering how these properties will be allocated to people. I don't know whether they're for sale or for rent. I think you mentioned, Mr. Moon, about becoming a registered social landlord. So I just wondered whether people would apply direct to that landlord or whether they would be available through the Be With Us scheme that covers all the social housing in East Lancashire. Could somebody please explain that?
I think unusually, but I think I shall ask Mr. Moon if he could come back on that point.
Yeah, can you hear me, Judith?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Yeah, it will be. It will be a mix of around about 35 to 40% affordable sale. So people will have the option to purchase some of the properties, and then the remaining sort of 40% will be for affordable rent, social rent, which will be managed by ourselves, probably in some connection with the Be With Us scheme. And then also the remaining 20%, which will be for rent, will be the sole purpose of any ex-military veteran. Or his spouses or family members. So that's the roundabout sort of split at the minute over the site.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you, Mr. Moon. Councillor Dave Parkins, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on this application, obviously, it's always best for the committee to. I know we deferred it last time, and I'm glad I proposed the deferment because I think we've got a much better development now. I'm sorry for deferring it, Mr. Moon, but I'm not really. But there's more meat on the bone now. That's what I'm trying to say. So it instead of refusing it, that's what I meant. You know, and then you'd have to reapply again, whatever. But with working with officers and what have you, it's a better development, and I'm glad I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parkins. Is there any other member that I've only got certain things on my screen? Is there any other member that would like to speak or comment? If you could, it's because I can't see your hands. If you could verbally indicate. Oh, thank you. That's great. Councillor June Harrison, please.
Yeah. Could I just ask, in future years to come, there will be a lot of these properties still available for the veterans, won't there? They won't be sold off, and they will be there permanently for veterans to rent them out.
I think that again, unusually, but I will allow it. I think I'll ask Mr. Moon to answer that. Clearly, he's going to be the best person to answer that question.
Hi, June. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. All the houses will be in perpetuity, available continuously to anybody in the Hyndburn area. Will not be sold off to any investment. Obviously, we will operate our own through the RSL, and these houses, should anything happen to our company, will be in perpetuity for anybody that takes that housing community over in the future. But we are hoping that our legacy and our company remains to operate. You know, we're not only looking at Hyndburn, obviously, as a showcase. We're hoping that this goes as well as what we're hoping, and to look at other towns and cities across the country.
Thank you.
Thank you, June. Thank you, Mr. Moon.
You're all right.
Any further councillors wish to comment or speak? If you could verbally or raise your hand, and then I can allow you. Okay, I think we're all done. Well, just before I ask Councillor Patrick Short and Mr. Scott Moon to leave, again, I'd just like to say, Mr. Moon's born and bred Accrington man, and I'm really pleased as chairman of this committee that he's decided to invest in his hometown with this magnificent, fantastic scheme for homeless and veterans in need. So thanks again. But I will now have to ask you both to leave the meeting, and thank you very, very much indeed for attending the meeting and your comments.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So can I just confirm Councillor Paddy Short and Mr Scott Moon have now left the meeting? Yes, I'm getting an indication from Rachel. Yes, that's fine. Okay, members. Very interesting application there, and very interesting speeches and comments from members. There's only one thing to do now, really, and it's to be decided whether to approve or not to approve. The committee will need to go through who is for and against, and Rachel can do the roll call as we've done in past Teams meetings remotely of each councillor. So we'll now go to vote on the scheme, and I'll hand over to Rachel.
Okay, thank you. This is for the vote for the application. Councillor Eamon Higgins.
For.
Councillor Dave Parkins.
For.
Councillor Judith Addison.
For.
Councillor Lorraine Cox.
For.
Councillor Stephen Button.
For.
Councillor Abdul Khan.
For.
Councillor Stuart Eames.
For and echo.
Councillor Kath Pratt.
For.
Councillor Chris Knight.
For.
Councillor Kate Walsh.
For.
Councillor Terry Hearn.
For.
Councillor June Harrison.
For.
Councillor Melissa Fisher.
For.
That's everyone for.
Okay, thank you, members. I'm sorry about that echo. It was entirely my fault. Rachel said to me earlier, I can't sit in the same room as you, as it will echo. And I said, oh, it'll be okay, because I don't like being in this room. I'm in the boardroom. I don't like being in here on my own, because if something goes wrong, I've nobody to advise me, you see. So it's entirely my fault. So I'm sorry about the echo. However, despite the repeated announcements, it's quite clear that it's a unanimous decision, and all members have voted in favour. So I now announce that this application has now been approved. So thank you very, very much indeed, members. I'm really, really pleased about this, and I'm pleased that we're all thinking on the same lines. So that brings today's meeting to a close. So we'll now wait 15 seconds, and then the meeting will be unstreamed. Thank you very much, members.